So next up, we have Amy Kronberg, who is an adjunct faculty member at the University of Dayton, an early learning consultant for Learn to Earn Dayton and Preschool Promise, as well as a PhD student in pre-K to 12 educational leadership. Her focus is on infant and toddler development, low-cost playful learning experiences, and social emotional learning for children and adults. And Amy, I will give you the same 3-minute, 1-minute cues that I gave Rebecca, and can't wait to hear it.
Wonderful. Thank you. Can everybody hear me okay? I always feel like I have to check, especially with the cat lawyer video on everybody's mind today. So I wear many hats in my many different roles. I started out in the classroom, and I now also add mother to that laundry list of different roles that I play. My son is almost 3 years old. And so for what I want to share with you today is focusing on engaging families along with engaging our children in playful learning experiences. Slide. So as adults, we've sort of become habituated to some of the exciting parts of childhood. Can you imagine how difficult it would be to focus on and concentrate on things that excite children, like every single squirrel or every single ant on the sidewalk, every bird in the distance? So in essence, we have to sort of break that habituation to think about playful learning. Slide. So a lot of what I'll be talking about later, they're in the process of building. So I want to take you through a little bit of a thought process that goes along with playful learning and how we can think about reaching families through playful interactions, through community embedded supports or interventions, as we sometimes call them. I like to think about it as being the right questions at the right time. It's important to remember that playful learning experiences don't necessarily have to be complicated. They don't have to involve elaborate play structures, although I am a big fan of elaborate play structures and things that inspire thinking and wonder and awe. But if you think about it, children can really make any experience playful and learning. And as adults, we're not always ready to engage with them at that level. So if you kind of close your eyes and envision different areas of the community where, as adults, we might pull out our phone, right, to check an email or scroll mindlessly through social media, things like that, or try to rush on to the next thing. That's exactly where we need to have sort of low cost, quick, easy, playful learning experiences. It can also be the parts of the community that sort of drive you nuts with your kids, right? And I'm coming from a family sort of perspective here, but like when you're waiting in the line at the grocery store, or when you're waiting where they have those stanchions, right? Those poles with the retractable things that connect them. Every kid wants to touch them. And so as adults, we're just constantly saying, please don't touch that. Please don't touch that. So what if we use that as an opportunity for playful learning to bring parents, bring families, bring grandparents, relatives into the mindset of that child? So instead of saying over and over and over, please don't touch that, we start to think about things in a different way. That's where we can set the stage for low-cost playful learning. It can be as simple as placing a sign with questions on it that make you think. It can be an unexpected picture in an unexpected place that makes you wonder. It is maybe an art installation at a bus stop, something that makes your child sort of be drawn into an experience, but also pulls us as adults out of our own heads and into the mindset of our children. Part of these low-cost replicable experiences is less about targeting children and what they want to do and what they want to play with, and more about pulling adults into the natural curiosities that children already have. Slide. So I want to take just about a minute here to do a little thought experiment. It's one of my favorites, and if you'll just bear with me, think about this is inspired by Sir Ken Robinson, his TED Talk on creative schools, but just take a minute and think about a list of all the things that you can do with a block. Okay, so you're sort of going through your head and you're thinking, all right, blocks. What is a block? What can I do with it? Seems like a long time to spend thinking about just a block, right? So as you're thinking about all the things that you can do with that block, you're probably thinking about some of our practical purposes, right? If I have a couple of blocks, I can build with it. If I only have one block, it can be a paperweight, maybe a doorstop. What else can I do with one block? What if I told you that block doesn't have to be made out of wood? That block can be made out of foam and 30 feet tall. That block can be made out of rubber and bouncy. It can be made out of anything that you want to. Does it change your list in your head? Slide. In asking what you can do with a block, I never said what it had to be made out of early on or how many you had or what size it was. And if you think about this, doing this with children, some of their answers are going to be off the wall, right? Because they're used to cardboard boxes being blocks. They don't have that same rigid structure in their head of what a block is compared to us as adults. We sometimes call these children, imaginative thinkers or creative thinkers. If you hit the slide, a little image will come up. But if we think about it as sort of divergent thinking, it opens all sorts of opportunities up that our adult brains don't always think about. Children haven't been a part of the human world and the human experience as long as obviously us adults have, to think that a block can only be one thing. And that's exactly the sort of mindset that we need to have when we're thinking about creative and playful learning experiences. What are the things that our children are already interested in? Where are the spaces that children are already drawn to that we can maximize, capitalize on, something that already grabs their attentions, like stanchions in the stores or ants on the sidewalk or squirrels in the tree. Only when we think about it from a child's perspective are we able to see things through a child's eyes and identify where we can have some of these playful learning opportunities. Slide. So now that we've had a little bit of a dive into the philosophical, thank you all for bearing with me there. I wanted to think a little bit about the practical application. So as the initiative that I work with, Play on Purpose, has been talking about these playful learning experiences. We've been sort of asking ourselves the questions, well, what is it that children's museums do best? What is it that we can bring to our community that brings that feel of a children's museum out into the community without costing, an admission fee? What is something that we can do that inspires play? And so we sort of narrowed it down into these 3 questions. If you click, we'll have some of these questions here. The idea behind children's museums is to get families to do sort of 3 things. Click. To look down, be grounded in play, sort of like these imprints in the sidewalk. Click. We can look up and dream big, and we can look around being mindful and present to the world around us. And so these pictures here are not something we've done in Dayton, but rather pictures that we use to inspire the initiatives that we have going, which I'll talk about in just a moment. These were taken at the Meyer Gardens in Grand Rapids, Michigan. If any of you ever get a chance to go there, they have a children's garden that is super wonderful and playful. And again, here it's all about where signs are, where these prompts are, and it doesn't have to be complicated or expensive. It just has to be inspiring and get us into our children's heads. And so with Play on Purpose, we have sort of 2 initiatives. And we talked a little bit about this at the beginning of our session with Shelley sharing sort of this dissonance between wanting to have these big, remarkable cornerstone investments in time, effort, energy, resources to inspire play, and trying to make it so that we can maximize our effort and stretch that every dollar as it counts. And so while we do have a bigger installation that is happening at a cooperative market at the Gem City Market here in Dayton, we also have some lower cost ideas. We've been really looking at how we can do these 3 things in smaller areas, in smaller ways, but across a greater grid across the city of Dayton. So our Play on Purpose collaborative group came together, bringing partners from multiple domains and experiences, businesses, museums, nonprofits, with the aims being twofold: investing money in those bigger pieces, but then really thinking creatively about how to make this learning come to life. And this is our year. 2021 is our year. Some of these things have deadlines. We have some installations that will be opening in the spring, installed in the spring. We're making strides toward this every day. Next slide. So we really started to, for all of my Field of Dream fans out there, instead of thinking if you build it, they will come, our sort of bigger benchmark of these bigger installations that are much more elaborate, click, and started to think about, where do they come together that I can build it? Where do they come together that I can have a sign that is quick, it's easy, it doesn't cost much, but if I do it thoughtfully and intentionally, we can encourage playful interaction between families. And our primary focus, living where we are with such high poverty rates, is really starting to focus on those serve and return interactions and building on from there into play, because we know that serve and return interactions, those conversational turns, have such a dramatic effect on long-term children's academic success and skills. Slide. So with our Play on Purpose initiative, it is an acronym, POP, because what is more playful than bubbles? And honestly, what is cheaper than bubbles? We started to make out a plan of what it would take to get this up off the ground running. Click. So we started with creating branding and drafting signage that we could put around the community at both our more expensive play installations and some of our lower cost initiatives as well. Click. We created our simple, recognizable, bold icon here that families will begin to easily recognize throughout the city as something to be excited about, something that is playful. Click. We are also partnering with local community partners to create pop spots. We have a readiness summit, for a kindergarten readiness summit at the beginning of March, where we will be announcing mini grants that will be with a couple of local partners funded for applicants to turn in ideas, community partners to submit ideas to install playful learning pop spots. And click. Hopefully, when we are all able to get together again out in the real world, we will have events that are called pop-ups. Those Bex decks looks like they would be perfect ideas for some of these playful ideas here as well. Slide. So our goal really is just play as children intended it, and finding things that children naturally do: spill water, drop water, and find a way to make it surprising and exciting. So this is hydrophobic paint. In our Gem City Market installation, we have hydrophobic paint in the plaza, so that when it rains, it snows, or the groundskeepers add water to the plants, these images will appear. So we've talked about adding in raindrops so that the children can step on the drops in the plaza as they are jumping from step to step into the market, or the ground is lava, right? Playful things that children do naturally that inspire that movement. These are draft images. We are still deciding on final designs for, once winter is over, what it will look like in the market. Slide. We've also talked about thoughtfully, intentionally placed signage. Now, I apologize for my very sad green sign that I put on the Boonshoft steps here with my Microsoft Paint, but just to give you an idea of, there are steps everywhere. And so if we put a sign at the bottom of these steps, or an accessibility ramp with just a couple of quick questions, think about the ripple effect that that has. Anytime a child walks with their family up and down steps, they might be thinking about, can I count the steps? How can I move up the steps if I had 3 legs, right? And sort of, lopsided, having like their arm on the ground. Like if you were an animal, what would it look like if you were a dog going up the steps? What songs can you sing? Again, doing some of those things that children do naturally, and bringing our adult minds rather, into that playful mindset. And the signs don't have to be complicated. If you guys have questions about prices, I do have prices for some of these experiences as well. But it can be a sign that stands up. It can be a sign that just has prompts. Slide. We also talked about embedding things within the community, having, anytime you see somebody in a business that is going to be laying out a sidewalk, you can talk about, wiping your finger through it or sealing it with something for just a little bit extra, and things that are, thank you, Brenna. Things that are playful. And how many times have we walked through our communities and seen handprints and, initials carved into the sidewalk? That's a playful learning opportunity. So talking with city planners about whether you can adjust some of these things is really great too. Our jump ruler, this is also part of our Gem City Market installation. Anytime you have sidewalk being installed, you can, measure right into the cement that's being poured, or you can have something like this fabricated with a local artist. It can be made out of wood, whatever you want to design. Slide. Okay, and I have like 30 seconds left. I'm going to talk really fast. I apologize. I'm so excited about this. We also talked about how we can have some sort of like entry level point signage in grocery stores, like sanitation stations, right? Like just places where families already are going, things that they already need. And instead of having it, instead of having it made out of wood, click, you can have some of these bigger, more elaborate signs, but you can also just embed signage right onto a bus, click. You can have ideas made like this that are wood, which are less than $5,000, which is not nothing, but not a ton. You can have these playful experiences retrofitted into bus stops, click. And you can also have it printed on foam core for really low cost. But again, just trying to get that adults into the mindset of the child and making sure that we are keeping things playful in places where we already are, in places where, as adults, we're starting to lose our minds. Instead of constantly asking our children to stop doing that, instead ask, why are they doing that? And can I join them? So that is all that I have. I have one more slide, but it's fine. We have play boxes too that are also low cost materials. They're about $16 a box mailed. If you have questions about that, you can email me, and my contact information is in the program handout. Thank you guys. I feel like I talked really fast at the end.
Thank you, Amy.